What I've learned is that all our sense-making and line drawing is a needy act. We talk of history as though we can pack it in crates, leave it in storage, label it, dig out what we need when someone asks us who we were or how come. It's as untidy as the present. I found a choice that looked like an order that looked like a question that looked like the truth. My great-great-granny, Janet Sibbald, was born on the 5th of January 1972 in Upper Largo, Fife. Her parents were John, a forester, and Isabella, formerly Mitchell. She had 12 or 14 siblings, depending on which documents you find. The 1881 census lists Janet as a scholar at Lathallen School. Such a place still exists, but it's not the same. It's a private all-boys school with no records that stretch far enough to reach her. Her parents were employed by the Largo House estate, where the family also lived. Some of Janet's older siblings worked at a local net factory, but it's likely that the rest of the family, including Janet, also worked on the estate from a very young age. Sibbald means victory, boldness. Dear Janet, I am doing my best not to disturb the soil you sleep in. Who am I to shake you awake and shine a torch in your eyes? I'm sorry if it doesn't suit you. I have never been paid to be quiet. I've called your life my research, my current project, and I'm worried that I've sugared the role. I've claimed to give your story the air it never had, but I'm nothing more than a false explorer, drawing crayon lines over an old map. I promise I will only write back to you, Janet, not cast you as someone new. Family still astounds me. All that we permit and the liberties we take in our shared name. I'm owed nothing that's yours. Don't let me overstep. And Who's She When She's at Home is a multimedia installation which uses as its spine a series of poems which take the form of letters that I've written to my great-granny Janet. The project began with research into her life as a domestic servant, her experience of being born into domestic service, growing up with it, and then raising her children within the context of domestic service. But as that research went further, the focus of the project broadened, and it began to be about much more about family, about legacy, about gender within those particular contexts, and also about memory and what it means to have a kind of cultural family memory. It also circled back in ways to talk about the coincidences between my life and Janet's in terms of the area in which we live, but also other kind of uncanny similarities that cropped up along the way. Dear Janet, the impossible has happened down at the harbour. Reclaimed land. What won't we make a war of? Who looks at a shoreline and sees two figures squaring up? And if we're picking sides, I didn't come from dust anyway. The water is all that's left of you, and it's shrinking. In my lifetime, the ground has gained an extra mile. Is that sweet victory? The shopping centre came first. When we got word of what was due, my friend and I tried to build it with Lego every weekend. A grey base for the car park. We always got stuck 10 minutes in. Couldn't even dream it. Who draws up the opposites? Who said home and dry? Who said murky depths? Janet, who told you that you were fighting an illness, that it had claimed you and would one day make you water again? Had I one half on either side of the firth, it might be different. But on most days, I'm desperate to swim. I know water lies about its width, but I'd like to trust that those waves are in fact as soft as they look. Dear Janet, I know it's useless to wish things for you, but I am the type to beg a new ending of a book on second read. Today I bought milk and thought of how you would have loved the corner shop. It's jarred beauty. It's labelled fizz. I'll bargain there's nothing you'd want for. No treat or need that can't be wrangled free from its shelved nooks, its stacked magic. 2 for 1, convenience and community. I'll bargain there's nothing you'd want for. No lick of local gossip left dry in its heaped wonder, its tinned haven. Today I bought milk and thought of how you would have loved its convenience. With all the work that squeezed your day short, I'll bargain there's nothing you'd want for in its bottled warren, its fridged brilliance. In the corner shop, no talk is too proper, no news not worthy of being split open on the counter. I know it's useless, but I wish you'd known the great community unifier. No flavour too abstract, no menu too garbled, no plate too plain in its packeted glamour, its candied air. If I could wish things for you, I'd beg a new ending and buy lunch for 2. Salt and vinegar, brown rolls, tomato soup. As well as the poems that I've been writing for the project. I've also been working alongside visual artist Megan Rudden, who is working on some sculpture for the final piece and who's done a lot of work around class and domestic service in previous work. We're working with musician Jen Mack, who's a sound artist, an electronic musician, who's created an amazing piece taking a lot of the themes that we've discussed through the poems in the project. She has a vision of a kind of final piece that's based on the idea of memories being passed through generations by doing this kind of through 3 speakers in the final space. And in the piece that she's created, the melody has slight tonal shifts once it's repeated, so you think you're hearing the same thing, but it's changed slightly in order to symbolise that passing of memory and the way that stories change slightly as they're passed down. We're also working with filmmaker Tyrrell Bunge, and we want to have some kind of final textural film elements in the completed installation. Music has been very important to the whole creation of the piece, so as well as the work that Jen has made. A particular song that's been important to us is the folk song, "The Water is Wide." It was a song that kept cropping up in all sorts of strange places as soon as the research began, and it feels particularly apt to the story. So that song will definitely feature, maybe performed live in the final installation as well. The water is wide, I can't get over, and neither have I wings to fly. Give me a boat, make it for two, and I shall sail my love to you.
The idea for the installation is that there will be a room that's quite dimly lit, and the central point of the room will be a pool. So the pool will be covered in what is going to look like white tiles. The idea for the tiles came from thinking about the kind of tiles that would be found in servants' quarters or in pantries of stately homes. Though the material that we'll use to build the pool won't actually be ceramic tiles. It'll be more something that imitates them. And this idea of imitation or making things that aren't quite what they seem to be has been quite important to the way we've been thinking about putting together the installation, in terms of thinking about how your senses can sometimes deceive you or not give you all the information that you need to understand something. This is also kind of linked in to our thinking about accessibility in the art installation, which is something that we've been considering from the beginning, as it can often become a bit of an afterthought, particularly in a kind of gallery setting. So the idea is that this pool will be the central focal point of the room. There will be speakers around the edges of the room that will play Jen's sound piece. In this way, the sound will move around the room in a sort of circular motion, and it'll kind of like envelop everything that's happening in the centre of the room. We're also planning on having a film that'll be projected onto the water, and the film will be much less narrative and a lot more about the kinds of textures and materials that are arising in the stories and in the letters. And so me, Ellen and the interpreter will kind of move around the pool, possibly interact with the water and each other. And there is also the idea that there's going to be some sculptures sitting on the kind of side of the pool that'll be made from soap. The idea is that it won't be completely obvious that these are soap when you first look at them. The form these soap objects will take will be responding to some of the things that Ellen has written, or some of the objects that are coming up in her text. The idea of the water has been quite a central part of the project, and so is something that we wanted to keep materially in the installation. The idea of water has come up in the stories Ellen has written, thinking about where her family have come from and how some members of the family have travelled by boat, arrived via water pathways, and also thinking about standing outside of the home, you can see across the Firth of Forth to Fife. And so the ideas of bodies of water has been something that's come up quite a lot. We've also been thinking about the idea of water as a container of memory, in the way that it sort of records our experiences, and we're made up of water. It's something that we ingest, we excrete, and in this way it's something that really connects us to each other and to the past. So it felt quite important that would be a material that was involved in the final work.
Dear Janet, when I lived in England, I moaned about the tap water. I'd say, my home is not a place where we scrub the ghost of a clear substance from our mugs. They called their rivers Broads. I walked the full circumference. Maybe that's all building a new home means, finding a body of water to look across. If I leave a mess, Janet, it's always by accident. I'm never one to want a mark made in my name. Being seen seems a fuss. Do I get that from you? I've been squinting to find your traces. When I picture you on our shared streets, you've trained the noise out of your walk. There is a whole world kept to yourself and a basket to guard your body. I don't resent you for hiding. Only the rich exist. Money can buy a sea of paper so that certain stories never sink. Dear Janet, when I studied the Second World War, a piano vamped in the background. A pink jelly crowned a trestle table, and all that was violent gave way to good, eventually. A story crafted careful. You are no longer a woman, but a genre. You are Cozy Sunday. At 8 p.m, we brew our own tea and patronise the poor we were. Your scenes are shot in blue, but we dream ourselves closer to the lady of the house. We must be the real stuff of the story. Your calluses don't make the final cut, but your wedding ring does. They call it the magic of the edit. Accessibility and embedding accessibility from the beginning of the process has been something that's extremely important to us, and thinking about ways that we can have it there from the beginning rather than added on at the end. So one of the ways we wanted to achieve that was by having this multimedia structure. And we spoke a lot about dismantling the hierarchy of the senses, especially since the piece talks so much about various other hierarchies, so that felt very important to us. One of the ways we're trying to do that is by sort of fooling the senses. We're also working with audio describer and artist Juliana to learn more about audio description and how to keep that in the piece from the beginning as well. We don't want that to feel, especially since this is likely to be performed in visual art spaces, we don't want that to feel like it's added on at the end, as it so often is in those typical gallery environments. So we're keen to have that there from the beginning. We're also looking to work with a BSL interpreter as well for the poetic portions of the piece. Dear Janet, for every coincidence, there are 50 chasms. In 2 turns of a page, you move from the arm of my chair to a new hemisphere and back. We are so good at making things extinct. Sitting with you makes me wonder which of my words will soon be put to sleep. A look in their eyes. Who will betray me? Meal done, feet washed, let's get this bit over with. But surely a story will be the one to frame me ancient. I'll say, we had to stay at home for months, years, in the tone my parents use for their first knowing pizza or coloured telly. Will I be spotted a mile off, cradling my 20s like a split shopping bag? Or is my time of times not so special, Janet? Is anything new or is it just made new? Does anything die, or does it just sink and rise as a wave does? Dear Janet, today your death was a rock to my temple. I'm sorry to say it has been many things. A leaky tap, a pebble caught in my shoe. I've torn through records. I have let full days circle a plug hole, and for whose good? However it was, I'm sorry. I know there are no good circumstances in which this kind of history happens. I've read the beliefs about TB. Some said the way its sickness made skin shine clear was pure romance or poetry. It killed you, Janet. We're still at it, heating up facts in our hands till their new shape suits us. Did you ever sit in Starbank Park? Did you fold your thoughts to paper boats and send them home? Because with my world at its worst, I've done the same. I've taken either side of a bench with a friend and spoken of what our bodies might not survive. The flower beds are kept with care so that every season has a colour. Dear Janet, don't think me daft, but yesterday I thought I owned something. It was a brief glory. Crescents and vennels were no longer necklace chains knotted hopeless. My friends and I eked out the summer, drinking opposite your wedding church. I liked the image, us both happy and metres apart. I stopped the walk home for a job's worth moon that bridged the tenements, chimney to chimney, a new route through the sky. We could debate the size of such liberties. It depends on the height of the land you live on. The city was never my present to open, but I've seen clear its sender, and our names are written all over it. A ship there is, she sails the sea, and she's loaded deep, as deep can be, but not so deep as love I'm in. I know not if I sink or swim. I leaned my back against an oak, thinking it was a trusty tree, but first it bent and then it broke. So did my love prove false to